Call this meeting to order. Tonight, we have some special guests with us from the Cub Scout Pack 520, who is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance at this time. So guys, take the stage.
Yeah, that's a word.
Fire away. Tonight, I'm going to ask that we take a moment and a moment of silence. Sunday, we lost the vice principal at Lawrence Central, Mr. Marlon Sam. He was very passionate about children, and I knew Marlon very personally. And he passed away while taking his son back to college after Thanksgiving break. He's also was a member of the Fire Merit Commission. So he was a true servant of the city in more ways than one. So we take a moment to honor Mr. Marlon Eugene Sams, Sr. Thank you. Give these guys a hand. Pack 520. Turn around so everybody can see you guys. Turn around so everybody can see you guys. You want some pictures? Show you some pictures for your photo album and Facebook and all the. Continue doing what you're doing, guys. All right. Good job. Next we have on the agenda is determination of quorum. Looks like we are good to go. Comments of council members, special recognitions, and resolutions.
Mr. President,
Council Giles.
I wanted to take some time to recognize a man that was really a pillar in the community here in Lawrence, but particularly in the Brookhaven area of the city. His name was Carl. Carl was my neighbor for 2.5 years. Carl was also the, excuse me, I don't use the exact term, but he was the leader of the youth corps group that does community and civic service projects through the Lawrence Methodist Church. And Carl was just, we could go on and on for quite some time, but Carl was just a really a heck of a guy. Was always serving others, didn't ask for much, but was always there for the kids, senior citizens, and just folks throughout the community. Unfortunately, a week or so ago, Carl passed, and he's going to be dearly and truly missed by lots of folks in Lawrence. I was very impressed, I tell you, we went to his memorial service just to show a testament. It was a packed house. The church over there, I mean, it was literally standing room. And that's just a testament to when you're a servant of others, you know, it just, good work speaks for itself. So he's going to be missed, and I just feel that Carl deserves some recognition by the council today.
What's his last name?
You know, I always mispronounce Carl's last name. It's Ingerwall. Erlenbaugh. But he was good old Carl. Yeah.
You know how to spell that by any chance?
I had to get you the proper spelling at the end. I don't know exactly. I left his obituary, but I would like to eventually. We're working with the. I'm working with the attorney to actually get him a true city recognition. I'll try to get that done as quickly as possible. But I wanted to make mention. And thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends.
Absolutely. Any other counselor?
Mr. President, I have a couple.
Counselor
I would like-
Freeman.
I would like to thank the city for assisting me on keeping the commercial lot at 5928 Sunnyside. It is immaculate. It's clear. So you can see the cars coming from 59th Street, and you can see them from Sunnyside with no interruption at all. I appreciate that. And Department of Public Works, I want to thank them for patching some chuck holes in Kenniston Farms and Kenniston Commons. And I wanted to ask about the chain link fence that is still damaged at Amherst and Shadeland Way. I want to know when maybe a guardrail or something can be put up. And I had asked about 2018 street paving projects, which streets will be done in 2018. And I have a meeting that I scheduled for the Energy Savings Committee, and it's scheduled for Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. And I've only heard from 3 people. That would be myself, Lisa, and Becky. I haven't heard from the administration. I just wanted you to be aware that we are having a meeting on Thursday at 6. So,
Okay. Any other counselors? Counselor Silverlap?
I'm glad you brought that up, Counselor Freeman, about the Energy Audit Savings Committee meeting that you're having on Thursday. Given that this committee has not met in 2017, and it was on the agenda and it was passed as a resolution to go forward, if it's possible to get before that meeting the pro forma or the financials that were used in order for that committee to determine that Perfection Group was the group that you chose, on what basis were they chose? Because nobody on this council has received any of that because I've searched out. So prior to Thursday's meeting, if I could get that information about what material or what information was used in order for this to be approved or this group to be chosen, if there was a pro forma financial done or
I believe the council attorney, you have the information? Or?
I have it. I definitely have it. I have the books that were presented when
Right.
when they put out the RFQ, when all the responders for the RFQ. I have binders from each one of the folks that were responsive, and I'm no longer on the committee, so I'd be more than happy to get that to you and let you, you know.
so, okay, so that was the basis that was used to approve this, was what was done 2 years ago. I'm just trying to understand why, what was used to determine that this was the group? A lot has changed in 2 years.
Right, we have had some notes back and forth with the guidelines of what was done, but the reason why it was stopped is because I do believe they needed a QVP proposal opposed to a bid. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I could shine some light
Okay.
on that. So when the committee didn't meet, and I can't tell you exactly when the date was, I thought it was in January of 2017, but I could be wrong.
That's correct.
It is correct. It was in January 2017. That's what I thought. There was a lot of discussion about the RFQ process to a RFP process because I'll be honest with you, I've always had some concern about the RFQ process because everybody who responded were qualified. They were all qualified and done many projects like this. And so I was looking for myself separation between the different things. So I requested that the city put out an RFP process, which they were actually reluctant to, so then when things started to move, then the other more pressing issues, I think, started to come up in the city, and it kind of fell to the back burner, to be quite honest with you. But there was a lot of debate on a RFP to a RFQ process. Like I said again, I was not the sponsor of the bill or selection of the deal, but I can say that I read through all of the proposals because I was looking for those separations issues. Personally, I can tell you that there was things in the perfection proposal that services that they offered that the others did not offer. Not to say that those are things that the committee may particularly choose to pursue, but they had more solutions for the city of Lawrence than the others. Now, it's probably up for vigorous debate on. I do know. Wouldn't remiss to say that they were part of the process in years past, as you know, and so maybe that might be why they had a more responsive response, but it was extremely responsive, and when I hand it over to you, I think you'll, if just judging off those binders, you'll see that, you'll see how more responsive their proposal was than the others, and I'll be more than happy to share you those binders.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other counselor?
Mr. President,
Counselor Wells?
while we're on the subject, I am recently appointed to that committee. And as Councilor Chevlot has just said, I have not seen any information, any paperwork, anything that's germane to this energy thing. So I have no idea how much, I have no idea about anything as far as how much it's going to cost or so any information that could be shared, I also would like to see it. One question that I did have for our attorney, I didn't quite understand it, but I'm still not quite clear why it is the council is weighing in on this and not the executive branch of our city, which would be our mayor, the administration. Because that was my understanding, is we take care of the fiscal and legislative part of the city, and they take care of, in hiring people and bids and that sort of thing. So I'm just a little bit curious as to why it is that the council's involved in this and not because I haven't heard a word from the administration what their thoughts are on this or where exactly their thinking is.
Okay, so,
I got an answer for that, too.
go ahead, Counselor Johnson.
I'm sorry, because it's something I was very interested in at one point in time. The way that, and the attorney could chime in and correct me if I leave anything wrong, but I had those same questions.
Okay.
And so one of the things that's interesting about the guaranteed energy savings legislation is that it gives more authority to councils than in typical situations that normally happen. So that's why the council has more say in the selection process in this particular situation because of how they structured the legislation at the State House. And so that's why that is an issue. The truth of it is it's really unique in the sense that you have to have both parties on board in the sense that, from my understanding, is because, yes, the council can make the selections, the council can even approve the bonds, but the mayor has to open the door to let the vendor in. But it's structured in a way, and I think I'm pretty sure I actually have that legislation as well, that you can read and they can dig into that. But it's a unique deal that it's a little different than our normal, the way that we normally do business.
Well, I guess my concern is when we voted on the passage of the proposal for the energy, was this thing is what, like 2 years old? These proposals are?
It's 1 year old.
1 year, or less than a year.
Less than a year. It was given out in it was the first of the year of 2017 in January when the proposals came back.
Okay, well, I guess.
Or RFQ, not proposal, RFQ, that's an important part, because when you ask about numbers too, and there are no numbers because it's an RFQ. Perfection Group was closer in theirs to giving you more harder information than the other was, because it's an RFQ, not an RFP, and that's why I had a problem with it, because there is no numbers with an RFP. It's just choosing someone that proves that they have the ability to do the job, which they all have the ability to do the job.
So let me understand what you just said then. What you just said is we have decided upon a vendor based upon qualifications that are similar, if not duplicate, of the other people that put the RFP out. Or
Besides,
the RFQ, I'm sorry, but yet we have based our decision on one vendor and we don't have any idea what their price is going to be.
but that's that's the same, what I'm trying to say to you is the same, what you're saying is why it stalled, is because I requested the city to move to an RFP because I struggled with what you just said. In the RFQ, you choose, if they have the qualifications, then you build the deal, what you want done after you choose the vendor based off of qualifications. Perfection Group, because of their relationship with the prior administration and had been here before, did have a stronger, more responsive RFQ proposal than, I'm gonna say RFQ response, I wanna make sure I'm using the right words, RFQ response than the other vendors, which was Energy Group out of Evansville, subsidiary of Vectren, and Amoresco Group, which does a lot of work here in Indiana as well. And then the Perfection Group that does work here in Indiana. I see the trucks all the time, even though they are headquartered out of Ohio. But that's how it kind of works with the RFQ. And so really, you know, I agree with you that but to move the ball forward with no RFP, I'm assuming that the folks who sponsored and had the ordinance done was ready to move forward with basically the RFQ, which is just a selection, and this council had full authority to make that choice, and then you, with you being on the committee, you guys will build what you want done, which buildings you want done, what you want in it, and then it happens that way. But I mean, I'm
So
sorry.
basically, so let me chime in here. We passed a resolution, which is merely suggesting that we move forward.
Right.
And we need to as a city. And anyone in the city government shouldn't have a problem with that. So when you guys start to meet, that is the ball rolling forward. And that meeting is going to be held, the first one, moving the ball forward this week. And then any questions or comments or anything you have from those meetings, then we can move forward from there. That's basically what this is all about. Okay? Any other counselors?
Mr. President,
Counselor Jones.
this time I'd like to recognize a young man. I told him I'd keep him anonymous, but at the last council meeting, I talked about the Snafu Lounge, how it had profanity and graffiti on it. This young man, which is a great leader also, I've known him for several years, took it upon himself, and he doesn't even live in our city, to go over there and paint over it and to take care of it so it looked nicer. So I just want to thank him. He knows who he is and very appreciative. And I think it leads to great parents. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Good.
Mr. President,
Counselor Wells.
one more thing, and I'll make it
sir.
brief. Something came to my attention last couple of weeks ago, and it's something that we all see, but I don't think any of us give any real thought to it, is about 3 years ago in Indiana, especially in central Indiana, there was a bug that came through, an ash borer beetle, and it gorged itself, these bugs did, on all of the ash trees in Indiana, like I said, especially in central Indiana. It killed many, many of them. I know that our Parks Department has cut down scads of these trees in our parks. You can go through there and see the stumps. But this has been around 3 years ago that this blight of these bugs came through. And what it has done, it has left trees that are dead and decaying. And whenever we have a high wind storm situation, limbs and such are falling out of these trees. I had one fall out onto my driveway that was probably maybe 14, 15 inches in diameter and about maybe 20 foot long. If that thing would have fell on somebody or a vehicle, it would have destroyed the vehicle or would have probably killed somebody. There are others that I see right next to the streets. I had a gentleman call me from my district that he had one fall on his garage, and his did significant damage, but the tree was in his neighbor's yard. His neighbor had no interest in doing anything about the tree because it didn't affect the neighbor. And so now it's up to this gentleman's insurance to pay for the damage incurred by this tree. What I would like to see, I've been in contact with the council attorney, I've been in contact with a few members of the DPW, and is possibly this council looking into maybe an ordinance or maybe passing a law that our city government could go out and determine if these trees are dangerous and maybe look into writing or citing people for failure to cutting these trees down. I don't know if this is even possible. I don't know what the legalities of this is, but it's something that we all need to keep a thought to because these trees are out there and they're not going to get better. They're going to continue to rot. They're going to continue to break apart and fall. And when they do, they're going to fall on property and, God forbid, people. But so with that being said, if we can move forward with this, I will keep on it. And I would really hope that this council could consider the ramifications of the danger of these trees. And maybe we could all pull together on something and go forward with it.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Council Wells, because I share that same sentiment on 56th Street, 56th and German Church, just east of. There are some trees that's overhanging over the road, actually.
Yep.
So I agree exactly what you're saying, and want to make sure that DPW stay on top of that. But, you know, as a counselor, that's part of our responsibility is to report these issues and take appropriate action as necessary. So whatever we need to do, I agree with you, we get it done.
I'll let you know.
Yes, sir. Any other counselor? Okay. Moving right along. Approval of minutes of regular meeting of November 6, 2017 and November 15, 2017. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Motion, Counselor Parker, second.
Second.
Second, Counselor Freeman. Any discussion? All in favor by the show of hand? Any opposed? Unanimous. Report of, as you were. Signing of vouchers, approval of claims, and authorization of payment. Is there a motion on the floor to pay the bills?
Make a motion.
Motion, Counselor Jones. Second?
Second.
Second, Counselor Freeman. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilor Wells.
I've got a couple that I was curious about, and if I
Sir.
could ask the controller to step forward so I could maybe question him on a couple of these.
Okay.
I do, sir. Can you tell me, when a repair happens in the city, what is the, is there not an amount that it gets to be a capital expense and it has to be put out for bid?
For a repair,
Yes, like on one of the buildings or such?
suppose, do you have a more specific?
Yeah, on page 9 of 9, I was looking at turnkey mechanical and electrical, and I seen that there was, let's see, 5 line items, and the most expensive one was $7,494. The total amount combined was $19,168.18. And I understand that, there's 5 different ones, but, it's almost $20,000 to one vendor, even though it's 5 different line items. But, we thought $7,500 or close to it would have warranted for a repair that should have went out for bid, or maybe it did.
I'm looking at this now. Those are, in some respects, separate jobs. A couple of those were here at the government center. Collectively, that amount would not require us to get a bid because they're not one project, but
I understand, that's what I just said.
quotes,
But the highest one was $7,494. Would that not,
does not require a bid.
that would not, what is the amount? Is it 10,000 or
25
25,000? Or,
quotes, 3 quotes.
I'm sorry?
3 quotes are required above 25,000.
Above 25,000. All right, thank you. One other thing that I wanted to ask you too is page 1 of 1, just for my own education, is $54,000 was for the, November 17th LPD to Regents Bank. I'm assuming that's for a car lease or car leases.
I'm sorry, who was that? You said page 1 of 1?
Yes, page 1 of 1, it was to Regents Bank, and it was for $54,012.65.
And I don't have my page 1 of 1, but if that was from LPD, then yes, that is financing for police vehicles.
Okay, so that would be probably more than one vehicle, I would take it?
Yes.
Okay. And at the last meeting, I had asked for the receipts from the credit card expenditures, and that was, I don't know what, the 15th of last month. I have yet to receive them. Do you have any idea when I might be getting those?
I don't recall. What receipts did you ask for the one statement from the last meeting?
I had asked, and the attorney had sent a requisition in for an information request, and I believe we asked for the past 6 months of the credit card statements.
I'll find out how long that will take, and I'll have an answer for you tomorrow.
I'd appreciate that. And also, if the attorney's involved in that, I had another information request that I sent in. It was 8 questions on germane to the police station, and that was on October the 18th, and I have yet to see anything from that as well.
I'll defer to the city attorney on that one.
Thank you.
All right. So it's first, it's already in motion, Counselor Jones.
Parker was first, I second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, pay the bills by a show of hands? Any opposed? Unanimous. Pay the bills. Next on the agenda, we have report of committees. Zoning.
Yes, Mr. President.
Counselor Parker.
Although the zoning committee was unable to meet, as the chairman of this committee,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to recommend that the Common Council hear petition number 2017-Z01-085 at a special council meeting on January the 2nd, 2018 at 5:30 PM.
1 hour before the council meeting?
Title? Do you need the title of that one?
Yeah, go ahead, put it out there.
Okay, it's the rezoning of 11756 and 7762 Verdon Street from a CA3 district to an SU34 classification.
Okay. So everyone got that? And where's second?
We need a second.
Okay. I was just going over the date and time so before we, does everyone understand? Everyone got that? Okay. All right, motion on the floor to approve the meeting for January 2nd. Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Motion, Counselor Jones, second.
Becky, did
That's
you
where?
make it? Did you make it?
She made the motion. Okay, but Counselor Parker made the motion. Counselor Jones seconded the motion. Any discussion? For the meeting, January 2nd, 5:30 hours.
30.
Okay? All right, all in favor by a show of hands? Any opposed? Unanimous. Meeting set. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, we have certifications of pursuant to IC Code 36-1-20.2 and IC Code 36-1-21. Those are in reference to the nepotism forms. All the counselors, except for Counselor Wheelers, who's still out of the country, signed up with forms.
And the mayor and me, myself.
Yeah. Everyone make sure they sign those forms for the nepotism going forward. All right. Unfinished business. Resolution number 9, 2017.
Resolution number 9, 2017, introduced by Councilor Jones, a resolution amending the council rules with respect to time allowed for citizen and council member comments.
There a motion on the floor for resolution number 9?
It's still in committee. They
It's
haven't
still in
met.
committee?
They haven't met.
Oh, so you put, this was in committee from the last meeting, right? Okay, it's still in committee then? Okay,
They haven't met.
all right. So it's still in committee then? All right,
It's in code.
okay. It's in code committee? All right. All right, okay. It's still in code, it'll stay in code until they meet. All right, moving right along, proposal number 23, 2017.
Proposal number 23, 2017, introduced by Councilor Giles, a proposal for an ordinance amending prior bond ordinances authorizing the issuance of certain waterworks revenue bonds of the city and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith.
So is that's in finance still? So that's still in finance,
They
okay.
haven't met.
All right, so that's still in finance. All right, let me just get my notes here updated. All right, move right along to new business. Approval of the 2018 meeting schedule. Do you want to get a chance to look at the schedule for 2018? You want to see anything that stands out? Any conflicting dates or anything? Is there a motion on the floor for approval of the meeting schedule for 2018?
Motion.
Motion, Counselor Chavis. Second?
Second.
Second, Counselor Freeman. Any discussion? All in favor by a show of hands of approval of the 2018 schedule? Any opposed? Unanimous. Meeting schedule is set. Proposal number 24, 2017.
Proposal number 24, 2017, introduced by Councilor Wheeler, a proposal for an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Lawrence, Indiana with respect to disability retiree stipend benefits.
And this is the first hearing, correct? First reading? All right. Counselor Wheeler, she's not here. Okay. I'm going to assign this to Finance. All right, proposal number 25, 2017.
Proposal number 25, 2017, introduced by Councilors Shavat and Chavis, a proposal for an ordinance amending the municipal code of the City of Lawrence, Indiana with respect to the city's credit card policy.
Okay. This is first reading on that, correct, from the last meeting? So I'm going to sign this. We say credit card, that means money. So that's going to go to finance as well.
Finance meeting.
Comments of administration?
I just have one comment to Councilwoman Freeman's questions about roads for next year. We have 52nd Street, Pendleton Pike to German Church Road, Mithofer, 52nd Street to Weeping Willow Drive, 59th Street, Wheeler Road to Lee Road, and Sandwood Drive, Sinclair Drive to 52nd Street. Those were the roads that were applied for, and we received grant funding from the state, so that will begin next year. And I think both the police and fire chiefs have something to address as well.
Okay.
Just a few announcements, some things going on in Lawrence. Last week, the mayor and many members of his staff, the prosecutor's office, IMPD, the Community Alliance for the Far East Side, we met with the owners of the apartment complex, which is located just west of 42nd and Post, known as Mason Gardens. They bought that complex this year. It's a company called Gated Properties. The two owners are, one's in California, one's in Cincinnati, and they came to visit us and discuss with us the plans to purchase 42nd Street Studio Apartments, which is the building right out front of Mason Gardens. It's boarded up. It's, I'm told, covered in black mold. It's condemned, or soon to be. So we just met with them to discuss how they're going to turn around that area in terms of crime and inhabitability, and working with the city to turn that from a kind of a blighted area to a rejuvenated, economically thriving area. So that's in the works. We hope to have some announcements for you soon as to what that's going to look like. Their plans are, if they're able to purchase that property, they want to bulldoze it and put up either another apartment building or a community center, a grocery store, or something that's positive for the community. So just want to let you know we're working with them on that. Here's some news that you otherwise might not hear about, because Jason Fenwick is not really the type to tell you this kind of stuff. But last week, he was recognized by the Indianapolis Business Journal as a 2017 CFO of the Year honoree, due to a list of accomplishments that he has made since becoming the controller here in Lawrence. A few of those include the fact that he increased the end-of-year general operating funds reserve to 11% of the city's budgeted expenditures. He balanced two budgets, grew the investment in Parks and Rec 18% in the 2018 budget, built relationships with local school systems health clinic to expand coverage, and created an employee handbook to guide myself and other department heads and other staff, really all city employees. He fully funded the LPD body-worn camera project, which was kind of out of left field. It wasn't budgeted or planned, but he managed to make that work. And he found a way to fully pay for the police station project without the need for any tax increases nor any interruption in other city projects, and found a funding source that if we don't use it here in Lawrence, it will go to, it'll revert back to other projects in Marion County and Indianapolis, such as a justice center, schools, libraries, all of those in Indianapolis. He also found time in his spare time to create an internship program for college students who are finance majors. So this is a great award, personally and professionally for Jason, but I think also for the city of Lawrence. It really puts us in the spotlight once again for doing some really good things. And I just wanted you to know about that. And as I said, Jason's not the type to bring that to your attention. I've actually got the program from the event, which was held at the JW Marriott last week. It was a breakfast awards ceremony that was attended by several hundred people. Update on the Christmas parade and tree lighting ceremony that occurred on Saturday, November 25th. It was, by all accounts, a huge success. We had great weather that night. We had an estimated between 400 and 500 people in attendance. You know, the parade was a hit, Santa Claus being there, kids were everywhere. It was just a really good, positive community event. And that community feel, or that Christmas feel in our community continues. And I'll ask you to be sure to stop by our community's Christmas card lane to see large Christmas cards produced by Lawrence City Departments and our community partners. There are 4x8 sheets of plywood that have been decorated to look like Christmas cards. They look fantastic. It's located, by the way, near the intersection of Wheeler Road and Memorial Park Drive. It's just a little bit southeast of there, and you absolutely can't miss it. Two more things. 2 nights from tonight, Wednesday, December 6th, right here in the Public Assembly Room, LPD will be swearing in 12 new explorers into our Explorer post. These are young adults ages 14 to 21 who shadow police officers, go through some of the same training. They assist with community events. They're very interested in a career in law enforcement, and this is a way to get their foot in the door. And I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They are the largest and the oldest currently serving police post, Explorer post in the state of Indiana, which is kind of cool. And last but not least, police station proposal update. We do continue to get great positive feedback everywhere I go for this project. I haven't really heard anything negative about this project, and whenever I talk to people in the community about it, they're excited. I'm talking about our churches, businesses, schools, civic groups such as the Rotarians, Kiwanis, VFW, American Legion. Our partners over at IMPD are excited about this. DFAS, CSX, railroads, apartment complexes are excited about it as well. They're all happy to see a great improvement in the city of Lawrence public safety. And the gentleman that I just mentioned earlier at the onset of my announcements, when they found out that the proposed site was so much closer to 42nd and Post, they just felt like now is the time to redevelop 42nd and Post even more, with a police station being built less than a mile away. So they were really excited about that. Controller Fenwick and I, as many of you know, held 3 days of informational sessions last week for all of you as a follow-up to the extended Q&A sheet that I delivered to you at the last council meeting on November 15th. And we both remain open and available to you 24/7. I think I can speak, maybe not 24/7, but anytime. Anytime, 6A to 6P. Give us a call, or even later than that, of course, if you have any questions. And we look forward to working with you on this project. And we have actually received some publicity here recently. It's a small neighborhood community kind of a newspaper, but we landed on the Geist Current with our proposal. And on, November 24th, which I think was the day after Thanksgiving, Indy Star did a really nice article. And if you didn't see it, I'll like to give it to you all. Here's a copy. You can keep it. And it's more of the same about what you have already heard about the need and how it's affordable, and how the money that we're going to be spending to fund the project it's a use it or lose it type of a situation, where if we don't use this money, folks, on this project, the people in Indianapolis will probably be very, very happy, because they would love to. So that's it for me, and I think unless you have any comments or questions.
Yeah, I got a couple comments. One is, Controller Fenwick, congratulations. I think there's no question that you have worked diligently to get our city healthy financially. 2, have we considered usage of the Lawrence utilities? I remember when we had a meeting, you talked about the utilities coming to the government center, and with one-stop shop is what you were saying.
Yes, sir.
So what are we going to do with the Lawrence Utilities building? Was there any consideration for usage of that? By the way, which is approximately 15,000 square foot and it's enclosed. It's gated in the back. And if there need to be have that been part of the consideration for a police station or anything?
Well, so I think we've got 2 questions. What are we going to do with that building? if utilities moves back into this building and the police station
Yeah,
project
yeah.
proceeds. It was my understanding, and Jason Fenwick can, probably Mayor Collier can elaborate further, but I thought we were going to sell that building.
Sell it?
Yes,
A 15,000 square foot building?
it'll be vacant.
Yeah,
As far as I
but
know.
go ahead, Controller Fenwick.
The chief is right. I think our intent was by moving utilities into this building, there would be a combination with DPW. So we would have for Lawrence constituents, one-stop shopping. You come in, you could pay your utility bill, apply for permits, et cetera, in this building. But by freeing up the Harrison building, which is where utilities are, and consolidating some of their operations in other Lawrence government buildings, we would intend to sell that, which would be a benefit not only to the city, but to the utilities as well, with the proceeds of a sale of a building.
Have the building been appraised?
Not yet.
The last appraisal was done approximately 3 years ago, give or take. And it was built for approximately $2 million. And it was appraised at $1.2 million. That is approximately 15,000 square foot facility that we have potentially to use. And that is, I'm just asking, was that considered to, to house the police department? If we had to purchase it from the utilities, because the utilities actually had the building built, right? Mm-hmm. And if we had to purchase it at the appraisal rate, give or take if the numbers are correct, at $1.2 million, we could potentially, and I'm throwing this out there as an option for consideration before we go forward and try to move and build this elaborate building with all this space, when we have at our disposal a facility that has adequate space as well. And if we receive, $3.1 million from the pilot from the utilities? Is that right, about right?
Approximately, yes.
And so we could potentially subtract $1.2 million, which is the appraisal rate of that building, right? Subtract that from the pilot payment, which still would give us a surplus of a little under $2 million from the pilot payment. And we can outright own that building as a city. So I'm throwing this out there because we get focused on what we want to happen instead of thinking about the reutilization of the assets that we already have. And that building is a very nice building. It's very nice in there. As a matter of fact, I do know that the front, when you walk in to pay your bill, that area right there, which would be a customer service area for the police department, is already fortified. It's already fortified. It's bullet resistant, the glass and everything else. So we have some assets, is what I'm saying to you, that we need to consider, in my opinion, before we go out and extend a bond payment on a brand-new facility, to which, by the way, Lawrence Utilities, the Harrison building over there, is within a quarter of a mile of the site that you plan to build on. So and then, not only is it relatively close, it has more access to for runs, i.e., you take 56th Street, so if we build a brand-new police department south of the railroad tracks, and we talked about trains and all these accidents and everything. Well, if we think about moving the police department to that facility, well, that'll eliminate all of that because we still have access to get to the south side of the railroad tracks via the bridge on 56th Street, and you have Shaylin and all the access to all the south side of the railroad tracks. So my point is that all this sounds good, people, but let's be realistic. If we're getting our city back healthy, And the first thing we want to do is think about spending. Let's think about what we have first as assets to the city. And I'm throwing it out there as a consideration, okay? All right.
So you've brought up a lot of really great points, and during our feasibility study last year, we looked at repurposing a lot of buildings in the city of Lawrence. Harrison Building was one of them. But to do that would be to make the same mistake that your predecessors made 8 years ago, and that is squeezing into a place that never was designed to be a police station and won't work as a police station. It's not a police station. As you know from the plans that I've walked everybody through, we need a very specifically designed law enforcement headquarters, and that's a nice office building, and it probably does have some bulletproof glass in the.
What would be the difference, though? What would be the difference from the brand-new station versus what we already have? We're not housing arrestees. We're not housing, which takes us to a whole nother classification. So essentially, you're building a $13 million facility that we already have at our ability. My point is, this is not going into a debate.
Sure.
I'm just throwing this out there.
I love all options
So-
to us.
My point is that it's the feasibility study on that facility. I would like the copy of that feasibility study, and I would like to know. And let me ask you this too: who did the feasibility study for the Post Road Station site,
RQAW,
and who is the developer?
B&W,
B&W? Are they
BW, BW, not B and W.
okay? And there was two companies there was two separate entities, in other words.
Yes, Lawrence Public Safety Partners is the title of the group.
Okay.
Taking
So-
the project on.
My point, Chief, is I'm not trying to get in a debate about it. I'm just saying we got to look at our options. And I think that when you talk about design for a police department, and I understand that all too well, that building that we already have at our disposal, based on the design of what this building right here is, there's really no difference. You think about it. What's the significant?
There are dozens.
What's the significant difference, though? And we could talk about that later, but I'm just throwing it out there since we brought it up.
Sure.
As another option. And then, I look forward to further discussions because I have some other points and facts and figures that I'll be sharing with my colleagues in the upcoming meetings. All right? All right.
Yeah,
Whoa, hold on.
Probably, because I had a question too now. I just have one simple question because I want to make sure that as I am learning and evaluating, I want to make sure that I am understanding things correctly. And this question is actually from Mr. Fenwick. When it comes to the financing of the building, because that's where my concern is, the tax on the bond, it was my understanding that if we chose to not take advantage of the bond, we would lose access to it. But my understanding was that the money would go back to the property owners of Lawrence, that they would have less of a bill, not necessarily it would go to Indianapolis.
You're correct about that. It's a property tax rate that we, the city of Lawrence, have that can only be used to pay debt service and is currently being used to pay debt service. If that debt service matures and is retired off our books and we don't do anything else, then we lose that tax rate to the benefit of the taxpayer.
Okay, so with that being said, and with all due respect, sir, what you said, Chief Hoffman, was completely wrong and misleading. Because what you said was that if we choose not to build, that it would go to the citizens of Indianapolis to build other things and that sort of thing. And so I just want to make sure that we are sharing the correct information, because I know me and Mr. Fenwick even discussed what that return would be based on a property of you had an estimate of if a property was worth $150,000, it would be like a $40
I didn't bring that with
refund.
me, so I don't want to put the exact number.
But
up. You're
that's
in
in
the
the ballpark. Okay, I just want to make sure that I understand things correctly, and because this is so important, I just want to make sure that Lawrence is a small town, And one thing true about Lawrence, boys, word does spread around this town, like wildfire. And I'm just a counselor from District 1, and when the police chief says something, it sure in heck means more than Terrell saying something down at the local Applebee's. So I want to make sure that the correct information is getting to these constituents that are all happy about the station. And this is not a judgment on the station. I just want to make sure that, that the right information and the right talk is going around for circles of citizens of Lawrence. That's it. I'm sorry.
I think, to me, the main point to take away on that, though, is we have a way to finance this police station that will not create a tax increase
Right.
for Lawrence taxpayers. Now, we can't say that in totality, because when Indianapolis or the township schools choose to borrow, that could have an impact, and we have no control over that, which I think is where the chief was going with some of these bigger projects out there in Indianapolis. But in terms of what we can control in Lawrence, if we do this financing, it does not have a tax increase to our residents on something we've done.
Right,
But it's a continued payment
Correct.
on a bond that we don't have to pay if we consider other options.
We have two bonds that will be maturing over the next several years. If we do nothing, the tax rate drops about 7 cents from where it is today. However, we could layer this bond in, which would be a new bond issuance. We're not extending anything. This would be a new bond issuance, but in terms of paying that debt service, it's all within that same roughly 7 cents currently.
Councilor Jones?
My question is just real simple. No, you talked about the Explorers, but I don't know if you ever stated a time. Could you tell me the time of that meeting on Wednesday?
I'm sorry, 7 o'clock Wednesday.
Thank you.
Okay, I got one more thing to kind of piggyback off of Councilor Giles and making sure we're giving correct information. So I asked you about who did the
Feasibility.
Feasibility study.
the feasibility study and who is the developer. There was a specific question asked, Chief, and this is the thing about it, Chief. This is what gets me thinking more and digging more into this police thing. It sounds good, great, and believe you me, I believe that the police department should have its own entity, okay, or building. However, when I asked that question and you answered that there are two separate entities, I have a statement right here that clearly says BW Development was founded in 2016 as a sister company of RQAW. So they are essentially one entity or the same or in the same bracket.
It's my understanding BW Development has partners in design, in construction, in property acquisition. They have business partners that build police and fire stations all over the United States. RQAW is the design firm, but they also, as part of their development process, they also do feasibility studies and they've done this for other communities.
So essentially, they're still the same company, Chief, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's the same group. If I was in any way unclear about that, let me clarify it now. They are this is a group of individuals, companies.
Oh, I'm tracking.
Who are charged with producing a building, a finished product. So it's not just laborers, it's all of the entire project has many different companies that factor into it. Am I
Tracking?
helping you out there?
Oh, I'm good, Chief.
Yeah.
I mean.
I think you were before, and we just want to.
Look, I just want clarity.
Absolutely.
But I also want clarity with simple solutions that we have at our disposal. So when we talk about selling a 15,000 square foot facility,
Which is
build-
which is less than half the size of what we need.
but what you need or what we want, that's the question of the day.
Need.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I understand, and you should be advocating for it, and that's what chiefs do and everybody else. But so we'll talk about that at another time. But I just want to make sure we're clear. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Mr. Fenwick, well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I made this
Council
one.
Wells, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to follow up with something that President Williams just said. He had mentioned the pilot payment and increase. Would that be part of this financing, is an increase in the pilot payment?
No. I guess I need more clarification on what you mean by a pilot payment increase.
Pilot payment from the water utility.
I understand what the pilot payment from the utility is, but in terms of an increase of a pilot payment,
Well, an increase to the city's general fund.
If I could elaborate, that kind of caught me too, but I didn't say anything. I think originally wasn't the pilot payment 1.9 million, and then
No.
3.2 was just used, so unless we just thought it was less.
originally there was a contractual payment from both the water and sewer utility to the city. Earlier this year, when this council passed the rate ordinance and then the associated bond ordinance for the water utility, that created a pilot payment in lieu of this contractual payment for water. There's still the payment from sewer to the city, but those two together is roughly $3.1 million.
Okay, that clarifies.
Which was about the same amount it was prior. The water amount slightly decreased.
Oh, just for clarification, in your funding proposal on this new police station, you're not looking to utilize any of the money from the water utility?
No,
In any
none,
form whatsoever?
0.
Okay. And one other thing, President Williams has said about the water company building, I've been in that building and been in it quite often. And I've been in many of the other buildings, commercial buildings in our city. I don't see any problem with them utilizing the office space that the police department utilizes. They did it once before. However, if you go into the back of that building, I would say probably 60 to 75% of that building is garage space, and it utilizes all of their big, heavy equipment, you know, all their big trucks, all their generators, their big pumps. They're not going to put that stuff anywhere in this building. So,
Nor is the intent for it to be in this building.
But the utilities have another facility.
The city, that's the problem. The city has a lot of facilities.
Yeah.
Some of them are utilized, some of them are not, and I think part of this police station proposal was looking at our city assets in total and how do we maximize the use of those. And part of the utility administrative staff moving into this building, if utilities can then either move out to 53rd or 59th with operations, that frees up another building. I think those in the long run are benefits to the city. We don't need to be, in my opinion, hoarding assets if we're not going to use them. And right now, I'd say we're underutilizing our facilities.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. I appreciate it. Any other questions by the councilors while we're here?
yeah, one real quick one.
Okay, Councilman.
On this bond that you're talking about, utilizing, there are other purposes for that bond, would that not be true? I mean, other things it could be utilized for other than a building a police station?
You could, sure.
But it would have to do with, would it have to do with public safety only, or
It'd have to be a capital project.
is it a capital project of some sort?
So we can actually, to piggyback off what you're saying, before I lose my thought, not to cut you off, but I
Go
did.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm done, that's all I wanted to, that's all I
So we
wanted to-
actually can look at potentially revitalizing our city garage then.
Sure.
So, okay, all right. More questions to follow for sure. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Chief Patalis.
Promise it's going to be short. It's just an invitation. Some of the counselors said they didn't get enough notice last year for our firefighters' family assistance program. The packing will be on December 15th, Friday night at 6 o'clock at Station 38, which is 4450 McCoy Street, right next door to the post office. 6 o'clock, you probably, if you come there, you'll be out of there by 7:30. It's some of you have already have gone through this with us before. Very quick but very rewarding process. Then the distribution begins at 8 o'clock next morning at the same location. But I just want to make sure you guys got extended enough time that for the invite.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I will, Chief, alibi, I will always be grateful to our fire department and what they did for me personally when my brother was down there. He was a victim of Hurricane Katrina. So, fire, whoa.
Thanks.
All right. Citizen comments. We have the sheet. This sharp-dressed individual coming down the aisle with a big old gun hanging out there. First on the list, we have Mr. Scott Smith. When you approach the mic, sir, would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, I'm Scott Smith, 8032 Barksdale Way. Wanted to come here tonight to talk to you all about the police station project. As a resident and a taxpayer, my concern with the project is one of opportunity costs. When I look along Franklin Road, which I drive back and forth every day to get to Pendleton Pike on my way to work, 46th Street intersection has been like that since I was a kid. The park, the tennis courts that were there when I was a kid aren't there anymore. There's a gravel lot there. There's a weed lot next to the sledding hill that a few years back, I asked the city park superintendent if they could just quit dumping construction rubble, yard waste there, just grade it, put some topsoil on it, seed it. I've been looking at that for the entire 6 years that I've been living in Lawrence. It's still a weed lot. Street lights up and down Franklin Road that are out. And when I look at city's financials, which I give the city controller a lot of credit, I think he's done an excellent job. When I look at the transparency that's on the city website, when I look at the State Board of Accounts audits and how overdrawn accounts are now back in balance, I think the city is doing some really good things financially. But when we talk about this police station project, we're talking about the future financial flexibility of the city and all of that flexibility being put into one facility, and the money for quality of life projects that would improve the parks, that would build trails, things for young families to attract them to Lawrence. We're going to be in the same situation we're in right now, which is that 75% of the city's budget is devoted to public safety. There's no money being devoted to quality of life projects. Cities all around us are putting big money into quality of life projects. Fishers is going to spend $9 million converting the Nickel Plate Railroad to trails. You see what Carmel's doing. Westfield built Graham Park. Kokomo built a $10 million baseball stadium in an area that used to be a bunch of flood damage properties. I'm not seeing any of that in Lawrence, and I'm not seeing any plans for any of that. I'm not seeing any plans for infrastructure projects in the community. All I'm seeing plans for is spending more money on public safety. Public safety is important, but public safety is one constituency, and I think they're probably the most vocal constituency in this city. And I respect what the police and firefighters do, but we're talking about seeing that there's, in the future, going to be a 7-cent amount of flexibility under our tax caps that we can do something with. And it seems like we've just decided to take that entire amount and build a police station project to fill that entire amount. It's not being bid out, which I think it should be. I think there's issues with the way that the feasibility study was conducted by essentially the same group of people that are going to be developing the project. And I would really like the city council and the city administration to get together and let's talk about what it would really take to build a cost-efficient building for the police. I think if you do the right thing, you bond it out, you hire an architect, you design it, you bid out to a general contractor a design, I think you can build the same building that they're talking about $13 million for a fraction of that. The same building. And you can use all of that flexibility that you would reserve for other projects to beautify the city of Lawrence, which it desperately needs. So I appreciate your time, and that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Carlton Curry.
Carlton Curry, 11230 Windingwood Court, 46235. Mr. President, Vice President, Councilors. Back here, basically on the same subject as I have last year a few times with regard to procedures. At the last meeting, you were absent, but you had a pretty good stand-in with the Vice President to run the meeting. And when you arrived at signing the vouchers, approval of claims, and authorization of payment, as typical, I called for a motion to pay the bills, and there was a second. And then, before any other discussion went in, one of the counselors said that they would like to divide a section of the bills out for separate consideration, and would like to make a motion to do so. My recollection is the attorney said there couldn't be two motions on the floor at the same time. Well, that's not quite right. I've been a member of deliberative bodies for a number of years, and in fact, Robert's Rules of Order does provide for a motion to do exactly what the counselor wanted, and namely, it comes under Article 23 to amend, and then paragraph E to divide the question, which is all the counselor wanted to do. And they were not allowed to do so. And this basically meant that you had a presiding officer who was in a little bit in doubt as to what should be done, properly requested the assistance of the counsel for the council to make a ruling. The ruling was made, was an error, but yet the opportunity for dividing the question and dividing it out separately for a separate vote was denied. So really, this isn't all this polite here in the Christmas season, but would you please get an attorney who actually knows the rules? Thank you.
What I will say to that comment.
Oh, I can help you with that.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
But if you prefer to ask the attorney with whom you pay for.
Well, absolutely, and I have the fullest confidence in her. But we also have council rules that are derived from Robert Rules of Order.
Actually, Mr. President, if I may interrupt.
Absolutely.
It's the other way around.
Okay, so, no. Robert Rule, you derive your rules of order for any entity or meeting based on that. That's not the absolute. That is a guideline. But at the end of the day, whatever was done at the last meeting, and we will look into it and adjust as necessary. And then I want to make sure that, and we talked about this before the last meeting, about respect to my peers. We're all up here, we're all elected to do a job. And if that is the case, we will go back and we will make sure and make adjustments if that be the case. But let me assure you of this. Councilor Wheeler is a Rembrandt. And she has and will do what is in the best interest and advise the council before we make a decision. And that is her role. And I have the utmost confidence in that, sir. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear, but I'm sure you and I will probably have future discussions. And I look forward to them because I look forward to some wisdom and knowledge, sir. I appreciate it.
Delighted to. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely, sir. All right, next on the list, we have Robert Coron.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I'd like to thank you for your time. Want to address you in regards to the police station.
Could you state your name and?
Yeah,
address for
Robert
the record?
Coron, C-O-H-R-O-N,
Sir.
7665 Sunnyside Road.
Yes, sir.
Been a resident and business person here in the community for over 50 years. I think it's very, very important we get this right with the police department.
Yes, sir.
I heard your concerns, something I really didn't think about, the Lawrence Utility Building. It's a 15,000 square foot building, appraised at 1.2 million. Get a new appraiser. That's way too low. That's too nice a building for that. You go in to renovate, move walls, wiring.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get into.
Right.
We need this, like I heard the young gentleman there say, parks, greenways, Fisher spend more, Carmel spend more. Well, I hate to say it, they're not a mile from 38th and 42nd and Post Road. We have to think of public safety. You put a park in and people scared to go to it for public safety, does no good. These fine men and women of our police department and fire department are some of the best around. I shop at our neighborhood Walmart up here on Pendleton Pike. I hear a lot of people say, I don't go to that one. I go to Myers, I go up to 96th Street. I don't. I believe in our police department. Give them the tools and the toolbox they deserve.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sir. Thank you. Next, Mr. Phil Terry.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of council. Phil Terry, 9347 Pendleton Pike. I'm the CEO of Monarch Beverage Company, and I'm here to speak in support of the police proposal for facility. Let me go back a little bit in time. 8 years ago, which seems to me like yesterday, Monarch moved to this great community. And at the time, that was a close call for us. As you might imagine, there were several other venues making proposals to us, suggesting we come there. One of the disadvantages we saw with Lawrence, and obviously the advantages outweighed those, but one of the disadvantages was the concern of some of our employees for perhaps safety. At the time, Mayor Ricketts, and then after we moved, Mayor Jessup worked with us to make sure that our facility was safe and that our employees felt comfortable here. And they do, they very much do. And we'd like to see that continue. Now, Mr. President, you raised some great questions, and I'm sure that the administration will work with you to work through those. But for the point I'd like to make to you, as a business in this community, a business that's proud to be a member and part of this community, public safety is really important. You've got a great group of public safety leaders and employees with the chief and the fire chief, and we'd like to make sure that that remains. And this facility seems to us like a good investment for the community. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask him a question. It's not too often that we get the CEO of Monarch, which is one of our largest employers in the city. But I have to ask this question because it also goes in line with what your previous guy said. And I really, really hope that you answer this question as honestly and candidly as possible.
Yes, sir.
The backside of your property
Yes,
hits to the 42nd Street.
correct.
Okay, this is my district. It's my home.
Right.
Love the people of my district. I feel extremely safe in my district. Have you had significant crime based on your location? Because, see, I take a problem
No,
when people want to categorize.
right.
I know that we have issues on the south end of our district. There's no doubt about it. But I do take issues because we've had people categorize that community as Little Gary and Little Bad Dad and all these other little things that are negative in our city. And I personally see that area as something that makes Lawrence very strong and unique, because I think that Lawrence has a great collective group of people. And so I'm sorry that I get a little emotional when it comes to the area, but I want to make sure the facts, because if that's the truth, if you got a lot of larceny and different things like that going on, then you have no more bigger proponent than me. But if that's not true, I want to make sure we're telling the right story.
No, sir,
Fair
fair question, and we have had none. That's why I say we're so proud to be part of this community and so appreciative of our public safety force. We have had no problems. To the extent we've ever had an emergency at the facility, the responders have been there immediately. And the community to the south of us, we hope we are showing ourselves to be part of that community. As you may know,
You guys are doing I'm friends with the young lady who is doing
Yes,
the
Ramona
garden.
Moore,
She and her
yes.
husband ride motorcycles together. And she was so proud of what you're doing
Yeah.
and fresh food that you guys are helping deliver to our community that's needed. And that was the next piece. I want to personally thank you because it means so much. And they're giving that food away at our local pantry for folks that may not know. And we know that there's food deserts and issues throughout Indianapolis. And I want to thank you for being a good steward and
Yes.
helping out with that.
Thank you, sir.
Truly.
And it's also very good food.
It is. It is. And she's,
We actually buy some of it from Sharona
Yeah.
and give it to our employees.
Yeah.
It's very healthful. So yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Terry.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Next on the list, we have Susan Cotter.
I actually signed up for Mr. Clark because he was in physical therapy.
okay.
Oh, take your time, sir.
Just a little.
It's arm, it's not legs. Okay, man. 'Cause I was
legs.
gonna say, we got a little incline there coming towards this podium. Yeah.
Well, just so I don't fall.
I understand.
Leave his name and address.
So give me your name and address for the record then.
It's Mark Clark. Address is 5743 Buzzkirk Drive. That is the David Weekley homes right next to the city government building. And, you know, that's part of the reason I believe that this police station needs to go where it is on Post Road, is we're transporting folks back and forth from this parking lot into the police station. We've got the new homes where I live, right next door, and I think from a safety concern, that's something to take, you know, to think about. We're adding 65 more homes. It's, you know, a very popular housing development, which I think it says a lot about, you know, what people think of Lawrence, is that these homes have been, I mean, they're doing a third development. So I think in order for us to grow as a city, we need to get our infrastructure properly set up, which means a station that can house the police department. They can do what they need to do and not share facilities with lots of other municipal government organizations. So I think getting that infrastructure in place first, then we can look at the parks and all of that. And it's my understanding that the money being used for this has nothing to do with money that would be used for parks, or it's a different bucket that comes from. So, I mean, I think if we have the capability and the wherewithal to build this, I think now's a good time to do it. Interest rates now are favorable. We kick this down the road 5 more years, it's gonna get more expensive. It always does. It's like everything else. You know, the city's done a great job of putting itself back in shape. So now is the time to do something like this. You know, and I did hear something earlier that this project was bid out last year, and 3 people applied for designs, if I'm correct. I just wanted, my understanding is it was bid out, and only 3 people did. I just wanted to.
Not quite. RFP was put out.
RFPs, yeah.
And so that was RFP was submitted, 3 people. It was a 30-day turnaround on that. And so you had to have your own financing and all that within 30 days. And so there was, you know, it was a tough schedule around, but with a public project, the bid would be more on each individual thing. So, you're but it's kind of gray.
Okay. Well, I think that location is an eyesore right now.
It is.
And this can only help make Lawrence a better community. So that's my 2 cents. As a resident and also as a member of the Lawrence Chamber, I think our fire department, police department do a great job, and they should have all the tools they need to do their job well. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions, concerns from the council member? Last thoughts, prayers?
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, absolutely.
The last gentleman that spoke said that the money that was going to be used to build the new police station could not be used for parks, improvements, et cetera. Is that correct? I mean, I know it can't be used for salaries, hiring, things like that, but I thought the money could be used for other things, not just,
So,
just
to your point,
clarification.
Jason, could you do us a favor?
I just want to make sure that we understand that what I think I understand is that the money can be used for the new police station, but it does not have to be. It could be used for other things. Or it could be used partially for a new police station, and some of the money could be used for something else. Is that correct?
Well, let me clarify to back up. I mean, we're not limited to 13 million. I mean, we could issue 50 million if we wanted. What our goal was to not raise taxes, and therefore this was a
Right.
size
So just
project
speaking
that
about
fit
the
within that.
13
So we
million.
could issue even more than 13 million. Generally speaking, those bond proceeds are to be used for capital projects.
Right.
Which, however you want to define a capital project, it could be a playground, it could be other things other than a police station.
Right.
I think paying operations, salaries, no. Capital projects, yes.
Right, so the gentleman sitting over there that spoke about the need for improvements in the community, quality of life improvements, some of those things could be paid
Some of
out
those
of that
could.
13 million.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we understand that. Thank you.
What I suggest is that we have a sit-down. Jason, since you have dual roles as comptroller / deputy mayor, get with the mayor, set up a time, date, and invite some of your council members to weigh in on this so we can put everything out there on the table and let us hash it out and then come up with a solution. Is that doable?
It is, and I'll just echo what the police chief had said. You know, we did have some hours allotted last week, and those are on the
Right.
table for whenever
Well,
anyone wants to come in.
With all due respect, we still have to consider other people and their schedules as well. They have jobs outside of this facility. And I understand you
Those
guys were
hours were
flexible.
both during the day and after.
I understand, but they also have lives and everything else. But what I'm saying is, we need to hear and talk to the mayor. We're the ones that have to answer to the people. And I represent a district, and I know what my district folk are telling me, and I'm sure whoever else people are telling them. So that's all I'm saying, and so we can hash it out, okay? All right, anything else good for the order? We are adjourned, folks.